Art of the Kickstart, Episode 12.
Welcome to the artofthekickstart.com, where entrepreneurs are constantly pushing the envelope to build businesses of greatness. Inventors are innovating and creating the products of the future, and backers stand strong for what they believe. These are some of the great thinkers, inventors, and leaders of our time. Here are their stories.
Hey guys, welcome to Art of the Kickstart. Today I'm extremely excited to have Kendal Liddle on the line to share his story with Hide, basically innovating the past, taking products and making amazing new leather stuff out of it. So thanks so much for coming today, Kendal.
Well, thank you.
So I like to kick these interviews off with a success quote, something to get really people amped up, something you live by and something other people could learn from. Do you got something good?
Actually, I don't really have a mantra that I live by, but if I had to throw one out there, I'd probably say, Nike did it well with just do it. Just get out there and do something.
Gosh, I can't believe they could trademark that. It's such a great slogan. It's so great for entrepreneurs. You just got to start doing it. And you are doing it. That's why I wanted to get you on the program. You guys set a goal of 15 grand, and you've almost 10x to that on your previous campaign. Tell us a little bit more about Hide. How'd you get started designing stuff for yourself?
Well, really the story goes back to me just wanting a bag, never being able to really find something that I wanted. So I just set out to do it myself, actually. So the original customer, I guess, for Hide is myself. Designed for myself, and then just shared it with others. Not a very exciting, sexy story, but that's how it started.
That's what everybody wants to do. They want to scratch their own itch and solve that problem for themselves. How do you know if your problem, something that you're thinking about doing, is a good business model or if it's just something that's a one-off?
Well, you never know if it's a one-off, but, there's, 8 billion people in the world, and I don't think I'm a beautiful and unique snowflake, so I figure if I'm designing for myself and staying true to the aesthetics and the needs that I have and want, there's got to be someone else out there that's thinking similarly. Apparently there's about 500 other people out there that were thinking similarly. Had a lot of people asking for the bag, so I'm quite happy about that.
So you've taken this idea, this product, and basically you're a designer, you're a creator, and especially if anyone checks out the campaign, they can tell you know what you're doing in terms of looks. You put together a bag. It looks amazing. Can you take us through some of the key components you'd use in design to make stuff come out just looking beautiful like that?
Well, I remember reading once that there's actually 3 phases for any creative endeavor. The first is the collection phase, where you just kind of go out, fill the well, so to speak, and more or less do your research. The second phase is the avoidance phase. I'm really, really good at that one. You just kind of have to let things kind of settle and bounce around, and eventually the actual designs ideas rise to the surface, and then you just kind of get in and start doing it. I've kind of always been a collector of old stuff, either in photograph form or in actual true form if I actually can get my hands on it. And I've got several old bags and thousands of pictures that I collected over the years of bags that I kind of liked, kind of my own little Pinterest, I guess. And that's my first step right there, is just looking and finding what it is that is attracting me, and then just kind of letting it sit for months sometimes. As I'm slipping off to sleep at night, there's little bags kind of being built in my head, and then eventually it just builds and builds, and it explodes out onto paper, and then iteration and after iteration. I think the current bags were on the drawing board for about 8 months, just going back and forth with proportions and simplifying, trying to get rid of everything that I thought was non-essential.
So Kendal, one of the problems that entrepreneurs, creators have in general is we're perfectionists. We never know when to quit, when to hand something in and just sell it. When is something ready for the market?
According to the designer, things are never ready. I don't think I've ever considered anything I've ever done. You just kind of have to set a deadline, and when that deadline's up, you need to take it off your plate and kick it out there, and knowing that it's not the end of the project. You can keep going on it, but eventually, like you said, you do just have to get it out there and get to the market. And the only way to truly do that is to set deadlines for yourself, be your own client, and just know the cutoff point. And truly, that probably is the biggest enemy that all makers have is being able to shut the box and ship it out.
So Kendall, one of the things that I've seen, your campaign dominated. So many people found you guys. They clearly loved what you were doing. You were clearly ready. What'd you guys do initially to prepare for the Kickstarter campaign? How'd you get ready to get all that traffic?
Honestly, we didn't do a thing. We were quite surprised. Being based out of San Francisco probably helped a little bit. That is a large Kickstarter market, so it's the homepage for anyone who comes in from San Francisco or with their privacy settings turned on. But really, I think we just resonated with what people were looking for. I think, it was a good product, good timing, and a whole lot of luck.
Do you think amazing products like that usually call out of the top, or do you have to normally push?
It certainly helps to push. I think we would have done better had we gotten out there a little earlier and spoken with bloggers and forums and online magazines. But I do think that good products, good run campaigns, or well-run campaigns do rise to the surface quickly, whereas a really bad campaign, a bad product that people just aren't into, it doesn't matter how much you publicize it, it's just not going to perform.
So it's pretty clear by checking out your campaign, checking out your video, you've got a design background. I mean, it's beautiful. What did you guys do to achieve that level of excellence in your pictures and your videos?
The photographs I took myself, so coming from a design background, photography kind of has been part of the toolkit for me for a long time. But the video was actually done by some friends of mine. Production company is called St. Cloud. And basically just turned it over to them, told them the look that I wanted, and said, you know what, I'm not going to get in your way. You guys are artists, you're professionals. This is what I'm looking for, but you do whatever you think is appropriate. And I think they just nailed it. They did a great job.
Is that terrifying, tossing kind of yourself and your everything you've been doing over to someone else?
Not as terrifying as actually having to do it yourself. No, if you surround yourself with good people that you can trust, I think you come off with a far superior product no matter what it is than if you insert yourself into realms that you really don't have any business being in and micromanage and art direct everybody around you.
So why'd you guys go crowdfunding to get this launched? You've got a great product. What's your reasoning?
Money. It takes a tremendous amount of money to launch any company, obviously, but when you're dealing with stock and inventory, especially something that's as expensive to develop but produced as a final leather good, you just need to have some financial backing. And the nice thing about Kickstarter is you get a very good sense as to what the market response is going to be to a product. So in a way, it's a very large natural focus group. A lot of revisions actually happened to our bag designs as a result of the comments and feedback and messages that I was getting from a lot of our supporters. So it's kind of a win-win there. We not only get the funding that we need to launch the company and do a full production, but we actually got a better product for having done it through Kickstarter.
That's awesome, getting that feedback. And you guys, you got a ton. You easily nailed your campaign, but what happens after? What are the challenges that you guys have once the money comes through and you've got to fulfill?
Biggest challenge is just timing. You get a lot of promises from the various vendors involved, and production timelines quickly get thrown out the window. We were planning initially for a $15,000 campaign and set our production timelines to fulfill an order that was roughly in line with that, but ended up doing around 145,000, so 10 times almost what we were planning on doing. And so it's embarrassing. It's a great problem to have, but we are a little bit behind schedule on, I should say we're quite a bit behind where I'd want to be on our bags. We've already sent out our wallets on time, but the production schedule for the bags just blew up in our face with the amount of weather that we needed. We totally cleared out the tannery for the amount of weather and had to wait another almost month and a half for another batch to be made. The snaps that we use, it's really hard to come up with 3,000 buffalo head nickels. Timing, definitely the hardest thing for us. We've got the money, we have the customers, but we just can't get the product made fast enough. And everyone at Kickstarter has been very gracious and forgiving of the fact that we're going to be delivering late, but it's not something that I'm terribly proud of. We'll be about 2 months late, I think, on delivering the bags.
So what do you do? How do you source a product like this, one that's mainly leather, to produce?
I think I went through 5 different stitching houses. We're using 2 different stitching houses right now, and I'm actually looking at a third one because of the volume that we need. But it's just a lot of flipping rocks over, trying people out. Spent a lot of money actually building prototypes with different stitching houses just to see the quality of their work and what the working relationship, how well they took instructions and feedback. And being as anal retentive as I am, I'm never truly going to be happy, but I think that the guys that we're working with right now are doing a phenomenal job. But it's basically just, like I said, getting out there and doing it. It's not easy. It's a global market. There's always someone somewhere who can make something. It's just a matter of being able to find the right person for the job.
Yeah, crowdfunding's changing everything for that means. And where are you guys going next? I know we were talking a little bit before the program started about another campaign you guys are going to be running. What are you going to be doing with that? And where do you see the actual bags you first made going?
Well, we actually have several campaigns that will probably be launching over the next few months. Pretty much anything that's in leather that kind of has the same general look as the bags, being kind of this, clean vintage, old school, repurposed for modern living, is on the table. So we've got some belts that I'm making right now. The leather actually just came in for me to start building the prototypes that are based off of some belts that the Swedish Army used back in World War II that I'm just in love with. We've designed some watch bands, and we're working on a watch actually to go with the watch bands. The bag lines are going to continue to grow. We have a couple bags that are in design phase right now, as well as some new colors for the existing bags. And we actually started cutting leather today for some boots, actually.
So you mentioned a lot of the past when you bring up your products. Your products are that mixture of classic vintage and modern aesthetics. How do you find things from the past, things that were amazing, they'd be the retro, awesome stuff people love, and innovate it for today?
Well, it's kind of something that I'm into. I've always liked the 20s, 30s, and 40s when it came to design and clothing and leather goods in particular. But my greatest source of this stuff, and as far as inspiration as well as getting stuff to take apart and figure out how it works, is actually eBay. Yeah, like I said before, I've got literally thousands of pictures of inspiration, and most of them come from weekly searches on eBay, looking at vintage bags and belts and watches and all manner of other things.
So I want to jump into the launch round now. Are you ready?
All right.
Guys, thanks for listening to artofthekickstart.com. I wanted to let you guys know, special offer I've got worked out with audible.com. If you guys go to artofthekickstart.com/audible, you can get a free audiobook, a 1-month download to listen to whatever you want. From Think and Grow Rich and The 7 Habits of Highly Successful People, 2 books that I've recently read, to hundreds of thousands of others. Audible has everything that you guys need. It's just like a podcast. You can find amazing books that our guests are recommending. Check them out. It's a great way to learn. Again, artofthekickstart.com/audible. Thanks, guys. Welcome to the launch round, where we take our guests through a series of rapid-fire questions geared towards unlocking the inner inventor and entrepreneur in all of us. Get ready to blast off and unlock your inner potential. Let's do this.
So, Kendall, what does it mean to be an inventor and a designer?
Oh, I think everyone's an inventor and a designer, but most people don't acknowledge or nurture that part of them. Anytime you go out and create something, you're inventing something, I think. But for some, it fortunately is something that we get paid to do. But everyone's an inventor. Everyone's a designer.
What's the biggest challenge you've had in your business or life that's really challenged you, made you a stronger, better person?
Oh, my biggest challenge is probably just getting out there and doing something for myself. I've always wanted to do it, but there's always fear of failure and maybe even fear of success at the same time. Getting out there and doing something is terribly frightening for a lot of people, myself included, even though for years I've been employed doing it for other people, going out there and actually doing my own projects on my own dime with my own name has been a particular challenge, and honestly wakes me up in the night sometimes in terror, and other days, quite the opposite, just absolute exhilaration doing it. Yeah,
it's a roller coaster. So design is something, it's living inspired. What inspires you? What products have really gotten you excited?
Oh man, it's not a day goes by that I don't see something that I'm like, oh man, why didn't I think of that? And I'm always surprised that I'll be working on a design or a pattern or something, and then I'll hit the internet going out looking, for some inspiration and find something that someone else has already done. I'm like, oh man, someone invented that before I did. But really getting into the vintage stuff, the craftsmanship and the innovation of the pre-war era was just amazing to me. Just how functional and simplistic and well built everything was, and I think we've lost a little bit of that in our modern age. A little bit of the durability. I think people 100 years ago were building stuff to last a lifetime, where it seems now they're just kind of building it to make it to the next season of fashion. And hopefully, what I'm doing with Hyde will actually, in some way, bring some of that back, building something that is, in a way, timeless and completely utilitarian and built long enough to last a generation or two.
Yeah, it's a namesake. It's not a mass-produced junk. Next question. Books are really important in entrepreneurs' lives, things that you can learn from seeing how other people lived and created. What are some that have been really influential in your life?
Yeah, that's a hard one. I tend not to read many books. I used to read quite a few books, actually, but it seems like when I hit about 35, I quit reading books and started reading blogs and low-calorie reading on the internet. But in terms of entrepreneurship, one of the books I think that was particularly inspiring to me, although it's not quite an entrepreneurial book, is Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Oh, yes.
And what I really took from that was just the breaking the mindset of really the way I was raised, which is get good grades, go to college, get more good grades, get a job, work, save, and everything will be good. Doesn't really work anymore. That was really the model of our parents and our grandparents. Now you kind of have to go out, and if you truly want to find yourself in a comfortable place and have the freedom that you desire, you kind of have to do things a little differently than the mid-century model, and be your own boss, I think. And despite the way I was learned, dovetailing into this, my dad, when I would come to him and say, oh, my furnace broke, or I need to get a plumber over here to do this, or an electrician to do that, his response would always say, do you have to go to college to fix a furnace? And, my response was, well, no. And he's like, well, go out and figure out how to do it and do it yourself. And not belittling the people who do that for a living, but his point being that it doesn't take 4 years to figure out how to fix a furnace. And with the massive amounts of information that we have at our fingertips on the internet, you want to make a bag, you want to make shoes, you want to make a watch, all the things that we're working on right now. I didn't go to college to learn how to do these things. I went to college to learn how to design something aesthetically pleasing. And now all I have to do is go out and find the knowledge and figure out how these things are built, find the right people to help me build them and get it done. So again, kind of getting back to what I learned from Rich Dad, Poor Dad, getting out and kind of being your own man and doing something is the only thing that separates the life track of being someone else's corporate slave or going out and getting the financial and work freedom and doing something for yourself. It's just it's a mindset.
Yeah, it's such a life shift getting out of the slavery of corporate America.
Yeah, just, I've been institutionalized half my life, working for other people and thinking that I had security when the reality is I have no security because I've got no control over my own destiny. And now with what we're doing with Hyde and some of the other projects, my biggest regret is waiting as long as I did to actually start these things and then believing that, you can't just go out and do that. You can't just go out and, fix a furnace. Well, why not? Just get the information, fix the furnace. You can't go out and start a bag company. Why not? Go out, learn about leather for a year, make some bags, get it done. Anyone can do it. It's just a matter of, taking that first step.
Okay, so Kendal, my question for you now, you're a great designer, you're a great inventor. What are some of the most motivational product campaigns you've seen on Kickstarter?
I can't think of one in particular, but I do love just spending an hour just browsing through and looking at some of the innovative and simple solutions that a lot of people have come up with for just common ordinary things like watches, bags, obviously, things that I'm into, but also seen some really beautiful product designs for hydroponics and just common household items that, like I said before, you just look at them like, wow, why didn't I think of that? It's such a cool idea, so simple. And there it is. Kickstarter is just a wonderful place, just a fodder for creativity if you just poke around long enough.
It's so inspirational. And now I want to transition out of the launch round and go back a little bit more into Hyde, back into you guys. And my question is, if you had to do the campaign over again, which you kind of are about to, but what mistakes or issues did you have with the original campaign that you wish you could change?
Well, I think our biggest mistake was we just ran into a burning building without knowing what was going to happen. We really could have used a little bit of pre-publicity, maybe get our base together a little bit before we launched. We didn't really have a lot of contacts within the industry to talk to and get some promotion towards our campaign. Now that the campaign's ended, a lot of people are now calling us wanting to do a product test on our bag or something like that. So going forward, that's exactly what we're going to do. Through a couple key individuals, we'll send them out a product in advance, give them a chance to play with it a little bit so that when our campaign goes live, we're getting some directed traffic and not relying solely on Kickstarter traffic. Another thing that we probably do a little bit better is, oh man, we could have done everything better really. When I look back at our campaign, we were very, very naive and blind going into the campaign. Better question be, what wouldn't I change?
Yeah. That's how you always feel. You make something and it's like you screw everything up. You guys actually came out pretty well in spite of some of the challenges you might have had. A lot of people don't.
Well, I think the one thing that I think we did do well was we talked to our supporters. We treated our supporters and will continue to treat our supporters as co-creators. We weren't selling a finished product. Our product was still really on the drawing board, and letting people get involved and letting them feel like they're involved in the evolution of the product and the campaign, I think not only gave us a good base and probably helped us with a little bit of viral sharing between potential supporters, But like I said before, it really made our product better. A few pockets were changed and added. Things I had not thought of that as soon as it was mentioned to me, it was one of those aha moments of like, oh, yeah, that's obvious. Why didn't I think of that? Good idea. And when I would bring those ideas back to the crowd and say, yeah, that's a good idea. I'm going to make this change, and here's a drawing of how we're going to make it change, we would just get this little surge and bump in comments as well as backers. And I think that's probably really good advice that I would throw out there to anyone who is planning a Kickstarter campaign, is to treat their supporters as co-creators and engage them in the creative process.
So, Kendal, you've been an awesome guest on here. You've done some amazing things. You're clearly humble in spite of the great success you've had. If you had one piece of advice for entrepreneurs, inventors, designers, just people wanting to create something amazing, what would you tell them?
Just stay true to your passions. As soon as you start trying to please other people, especially when you start to please the crowd, first and foremost, the likelihood of coming up with something great, I think, greatly diminishes. And then I think that's probably where a lot of our success came from, is we had a vision, and we stayed true to our vision in spite of what I've said with enlisting advice from our supporters. We didn't try to be everything to everyone. We had a clear idea of who we were and what we wanted to be, and stayed within that arena.
Kendal, you've been such a cool guest to have on. I'm so glad I got to talk to you. Give yourself a pitch. Share Kendal and Hyde. Talk about your story, the new campaign you guys are going to launch, and where people can find you.
Well, Kendal and Hyde, you'll find us on Kickstarter probably 4 or 5 times a year. I'm thinking it was a great experience, and we'll be back. But in the meantime, our website is kendalhyde.com. We'll also do some self-starters there, as well as selling the products which are actually already in production. Actually, ask me that question again. I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to be answering there.
I don't know. Just tell people. Yeah, a lot of the people we have on here, they're doing their campaigns. They like to share the story, try to get that last push. You guys have pretty much already killed it. It's obvious that you have something amazing. You don't really even need to sell it if you don't want to.
Well, Hyde is a labor of love in a lot of ways, but it's also what's going to feed my family and send my kids to school and pay the bills. So obviously I want to promote it, but it's always hard to talk about yourself. At least it is hard to talk about myself personally. But kendalhyde.com is the website. We've got a lot of what I think are very exciting products coming up. We've got one line in particular that's going to be probably breaking early next year, which I think is really, really innovative for the leather bag space. But I don't want to say too much more than that, because I could be wrong and I may never actually get it done. But I don't know. Okay.
You did a good job. Don't worry. You would never make it as a politician. You're much too humble. You're too nice of a guy. Thanks so much for coming.
I'm not a self publicist by any means. And actually, I think that was part of what helped us on Kickstarter. I think people did gravitate to Kendal and Hyde because I think they got the idea that we were honest and truly just trying to bring a product to market. We weren't trying to pull something over on anyone. And that's something that really turns me off on a lot of Kickstarter campaigns, is when I go there and I see that they're just a bunch of hucksters trying to sell something. They're not coming up with anything innovative or new or trying to start something new for themselves. They're just trying to make a buck. Amazon and eBay are a better place to be doing that. You'll get crucified on Kickstarter if you're not truly, genuinely going out there, either trying to invent something as a product or trying to invent something as a company or a production, an art project. It's a social forum, and there's a lot of smart people out there who'll see right through anything that's fake.
And that's why I was so excited to have you on today, Kendal. You're not fake. You're genuine. You've got an amazing product. You're essentially taking Indiana Jones and bringing him to the modern age, letting everybody feel amazing, have great, high-quality leather goods. Thanks so much for coming on today.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the compliment and appreciate the opportunity to talk about Hyde.
Guys, the true classics never die. Look at Kendal and Hyde. These are amazing products. That's our challenge. See if you can bring something classic, retro, something that was awesome in the past, and bring it to the future. You don't necessarily have to be new. You just have to put a new spin on things. Think about it. Thanks for listening to another episode of The Art of the Kickstart, where we believe makers, inventors, and entrepreneurs are changing the world and bringing humanity forward into the future. I'm your host, Matt Ward, and it's been a pleasure guiding you through this journey of creation and innovation. I hope you're inspired by this and check out artofthekickstart.com to get more information and tactics to help you launch your own business, product, and dreams.